your parents came here whenever?
Started your dad?
My dad came here to Mammoth in 1953, and we came to work for him in 1954. And at that time he had a place called the High Sierra Inn, which was formerly the Mammoth Club. And after it was the High Sierra Inn, he moved next door to a place that used to be called the Penguin, and he changed the name then to just Crandall's. He sold the place to a man named George Claudus, who changed the name to the Village Inn, and then it was just called the VI. And then Pea Soup Anderson's had it, and but that's...
What was the VI like then? What the size of it, the atmosphere?
Well, the old place that he had, the High Sierra Inn, was the largest place. It was his original place, and it was a restaurant, bar, dance hall. They had card games there, and at that time there was very little ski activity here. A big day at the ski lift was 200 people at that time.
What year was that?
And that was in 1954. And the majority of the people, the tourists that were here then, were fishermen and hunters. And there were just 20 families that lived here year-round then in Mammoth in 1954. The store closed in the winter. The post office closed. It was a very, very small community at that time. There wasn't any winter business to speak of, you know.
Was that place open year-round?
It was one of the only two places. There was the Mammoth Tavern in the High Sierra Inn. And then, as everyone knows, the skiing took over. Each year the skiing business doubled or quadrupled, and at first, when we first moved here, skiers were given the same treatment and consideration as motorcycle people. Really, they were ski bums, and they weren't a class trade at that time, you know. But then it changed into, you know, a complete 360.
When the 20 families lived here, did you all know each other really well?
It was that way. It was that way for 10 or 15 years after we moved here. Everyone knew everyone. You didn't even have to carry a wallet with you. You could run out of gas and pull into any gas station, and they all knew you.
How many gas stations were there?
Well, let's see. There was Rich Thompson had the Shell gas station. Base Farabee had the Chevron station. Jenny Baum's husband, Larry, had the Texaco gas station, which is up where the Pioneer liquor store is now. That was a gas station there. There was just 3 gas stations, and then there was one down at Casa Diablo. There was a gas station there also.
Remember any interesting stories at the bar?
A million of them. Absolutely a million. About everyone that's here, I could tell you a different story that they'd probably like to forget. You know?
What one stands most out in your mind?
I wouldn't even attempt that. Just wait till they get rolling and you'll hear stories from everyone here. This was a very different community then than it is now. When everyone knew everyone. There wasn't any trouble. No one locked their house. No one locked their cars. The 3 vehicles that we had at our place had the keys in them all the time. One of them was a brand new Jaguar. Had the keys in them all the time. That's the way it was then. You could be camping anywhere up here and leave all of your cameras, guns, everything right on the picnic tables. No one would touch them. Everything was sacred then. And it was that way for a long time. It was that way really up until the latter part of the 50s.
What was work like for you? Did you work long hours every day?
Everyone worked long hours. At that time it was a very seasonal place. You could only work during the season. In the winter you could do nothing. So in the summer, like I used to work for Lloyd Nichols, who owned the Mammoth Lumber and Supply Company. Almost everyone that's here worked for Lloyd at one time or another. Because it was the one industry up here that was working most of the time. But all of the time that you could work was when there was no snow. And once it snowed, you got your heavy snow, then it was over. And it was over until spring.
What was a day like at the lumber mill?
Well, it wasn't much different than any other place. You started work at 7 in the morning, you know, and all of these old cabins around here. I worked on several cabins that used to be right next to this museum here that aren't here anymore.
So building, you built
Yeah,
housing?
and I was working for Lloyd Nichols when Tom Dempsey came to the area. And he was a very young person then, and he took over where Lloyd Nichols really wound up. And Tommy changed everything completely with the first condominium in town, which was the Nordic? I can't think of the name of it now.
The Nordica.
Nordica.
Yeah.
The Nordica was the name of it.
Do you think a lot of those things that you mentioned about kind of leaving the doors open and just things like that, do you think those things changed because of the amount of tourism that eventually came?
Oh, every place has changed everywhere. You can't just blame it on any one area. It's this way in any resort area anywhere. I mean, there's just been a change in morals, you know, everywhere.
Diana, what was it like for you, like getting your hair done or going shopping?
You did your own hair.
You did everything yourself.
Everything.
It took us 7 years to get a telephone. We lived here 14 years before they had television.
There was no doctor.
There was no doctor, there was no drugstore. When Jim Warda put in the very first television,
You had to go to Bishop for
you had to go to
supplies.
Bishop for everything. And as I said, when after deer season was over, then they closed the market, and then you had to go to Bishop to shop the rest of the winter. And when you shop, you really had to shop, you know, because you didn't go down there every other day because they didn't have snow removal like they do now, you know.
Did you have kids?
Yes.
What was it like going through childbearing for you?
Well, that was all right. Of course, the hospital was in Bishop, and I've got a mind block.
Well,
The no doctor was the
Yeah.
worst. You know, if the baby gets sick, then what do you do? And
but you get used to those things. you
Neighbors
know.
help out?
Everyone
yes,
helped
everyone
everyone
helped
out.
everyone.
If someone's house burnt down, everyone pitched in to help. They'd have potluck dinners to raise money for them. You know, they'd have dances and things, and anything that happened, everyone would jump in and help and try to help straighten it out again. And that went on for a long time also. It really did. That probably went on until the late 50s. But
right.
the town has changed, but everything else is the same. It's still the same place.
It's
This-
just the same.
Yeah,
What, can you guys think of anything else?
No, that was really good.
yeah.
Thanks a lot. Very insightful.
That was neat.
Boy, it's a good thing I didn't know I was getting myself into that.
Well, my name is Frank Coates. I first came to Mammoth in 1957, and then I moved up here in 58, and we started building the Yodeler in 59.
So how
nice.
did that come about? Who originally thought of building the Yodeler?
Well, it was a part of the Mammoth Mountain Inn project. See, it was supposed to have a less formal place for people to meet and greet, so I became a sub-leasee from the Forest Service, basically from Mammoth Mountain Inn. And my brother-in-law, Fred Hammersager, was a Swiss, so we thought that would be part of the Swiss village, the ice skating rink behind it that's not there anymore. And so we had Swiss architects, and they came over, and then we drew the plans. Bob Schatz built the place, and then we imported all the interior and ceilings, doors, windows from Switzerland, all the furniture from Switzerland, and had Swiss carpenters come over and put it together.
So you were in charge
And-
of coordinating that?
Well, I was paying for it. I owned the building and the restaurant until, 1968 from there. Then Bill Wadsworth bought it, and then Dave bought it from Bill.
What were some difficulties you ran into back then?
Oh, Lord. Well, you know, snow removal, although Dave helped out a lot on snow removal over there. He was responsible for it. There wasn't any produce. It had to come out of L.A. Leonard was in charge of getting the garbage out of there. Well, we had surge backups, we had supply problems, we were snowed in, we had a parking lot on top of cars out there. It just kept going. It was a rather interesting period. There wasn't anything to fall back on, really. I mean, when you got snowed in or lost the road, that was the end of it, you know, for you.
What'd you do with your employees or the people who were stuck
We
there?
had employee housing. We had employee housing in the Yodeler. Well, let's see, there was 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 could stay in the Yodeler, and some of the married people. But most of the people that worked at the Yodeler were either from the ski school, the lift, or from the town picking up extra jobs. So they already had places to stay at that time. You know.
So, how did you come up with the idea to like bring everything over from Switzerland rather than try to design it similar to?
Well, we thought it was going to be we wanted to do a good building, and we thought it was going to be cheaper to get that end results to import it than to do it here. Gus Weber was, you know, knew the metric system, and the building, basically the plans were all in metric without any conversion factors, so he really helped convert it into, you know, inches and feet. It was just the design that was going to go along. You know, the Yodeler house now is part of that. Was supposed to be a Swiss village that came all along the ice skating rink. It was behind the Yodeler. That's why the back of the Yodeler and the front are both finished off. So you could be skating out there and, you know, have a finished building.
When did it first open?
59. Christmas of 59. A little bit before Christmas, I think.
And how much business did you do back then?
Well, we were, how much business? On a good Saturday night, we'd serve 300 dinners, and the place would be packed after skiing. And it was like everything else. There was a midweek lull, but I think the lift was getting a good show if they had 2,000 people. 2,500. I seem to remember some days like that Nick would say that we got 2,000 people on the lift. That breaks all records or something like that. And that was, they just finished number 2 lift when we opened, and number 3 was that following summer.
What type of dinners did you have back then?
Oh, we had frog legs, trout amadine, desserts. We had Chateaubriands, flaming dishes for desserts. We had Dick Dawson was one of the waiters there, and everybody had on their jackets. And we had accordion player and little band from Sun Valley that used to play in the ram horn at Sun Valley. And it was really a pretty fine menu. I was looking the other day, a New York steak with soup and salad and dessert was $4.50.
Good deal.
Yeah, beer was 35 cents when we first opened for 10-ounce glass. And, you know, we thought somebody bought a $2.50 bottle of wine. That was pretty good. So the price, I think, has changed a little bit on all that stuff.
Remember any brawls or any
Hold on one
excitement?
second.